Hi folks, welcome to the Rangers Reviews pre-match briefing ahead of today's game at Hampden. It says live at Ibrox, but I've not changed that since the last time, Chris. We are indeed. If we were at Ibrox today, there wouldn't be much to see. Rangers versus Hearts in the Viaplay Cup Semi-Final. We're going to bring you the team just now in case you have not seen it. Jack Butland in goals, a back four of Tavernier, Goldson, Balogun and Barisic. John Lundstrom is joined by Ryan Jack in the midfield. Todd Cantwell comes in, the only change, alongside Borna Barisic, in for Scott Wright. He'll play next to Sam Lammers with Sima wide on the left and Danilo up top. Chris, immediate reaction to that. Two changes from the game in midweek against Dundee. What's your kind of initial thoughts looking at that starting 11?
Initial thought is it's a starting 11 that should be able to go and win this game and get Rangers into the final. There's been a lot of debate obviously at times this season about the strength of the team, the strength of the squad. I think that's a fairly good lineup. Not a massive surprise to see Leon Balogun keep his place after an impressive performance midweek. I don't think it's a huge surprise that Todd Cantwell has come in. I know we've just been having that debate in the media room here about whether Scott Wright should keep his place or not after playing fairly well in midweek. But I think Cantwell's one of the best players in the team. He's one of the key match winners. He's more likely to produce a game-changing match-winning moment than Scott Wright is. So I don't think it's a huge surprise to see him in the team. And also the man with the mask up front is the one that everyone wanted to see leading the line. So hopefully the match minutes and the goal midweek has been another real keen boost for Danilo, and you'd certainly have to fancy him to get on to get the score sheet again this afternoon.
Yeah, let us know what you think of the team in the comments below, folks. Chris, start with, we'll get to the Hearts team as well, read that out, but I want to start with Borna Barisic. Ridvan Yilmaz has started the last two games, if memory serves me correctly. Obviously, didn't play away in Prague. I think he was quite clearly targeted by Hearts in the game at Ibrox last week. Not only for the first goal, there was a couple of other moments as well. And I think Hearts both in possession in the way that they tried to play long from goal kicks and obviously from corners. They target him quite obviously and his lack of height. Not too surprised to see Borna Barisic come back in there because I guess for what you maybe lose on the ball for me, it kind of negates what a lot of Hearts' game plan might be, which is targeting that left-hand side, specifically the height difference that was there at Ibrox.
I don't think there's much between the two of them in terms of what they bring to the team as a whole. Also very different in terms of their styles. But I don't think it really impacts the team that much depending who's in there. So I don't think it's a massive surprise that Barisic comes back in. The only thing I think the manager might have had in his mind could have been if also a game coming on Thursday night, do you perhaps keep Barisic in reserve for Thursday night, or on the opposite side, do you try and give him a game because you know he's going to have to play on Thursday night? So I think as much as the manager will say he's only focusing on this game, I wouldn't be surprised if he had that kind of thought at the back of his mind. So I think it's again no massive surprise that Borna comes back into the team.
Leon Balogun came in quite literally from the cold in midweek up at Dundee. Rangers were very good. He was very effective carrying the ball specifically out of defence for the first goal, but also I guess he does give you that level of physicality. I don't know, is Ben Davies actually on the bench? I don't think he is. No. He isn't.
Yes,
he is. Okay. So he's obviously been recovering from a knock, which maybe impacts his decision somewhat. But as well as that, Chris, Balogun had a good game in midweek. That was the best that Rangers have played in quite a while. So there is the argument you want to keep the core of that squad together. He gives you a different option to Davies in terms of he's going to carry the ball forward as opposed to passing the ball forward. Again, maybe if you look back to that game, I think at points last week at Ibrox, Shankland had the number on Davies from a physical point of view. Not throughout the whole game. It was quite a good battle there. You'd expect Balogun to have the upper hand in that one. So again, judging by social media over the last couple of days, people wanted Balogun to be in there, and it's probably deserving that he keeps his spot today next to Goldson.
I think so. If you look at that performance from Wednesday night, he came in from absolutely nowhere. No one expected him to be anywhere near the team. Also, Ben Davies did the pre-match press conference and then disappeared and wasn't seen. And the manager did say on Friday it was still touch and go in Davies. So I think again, if there's any doubt, he doesn't seem the type of manager that's going to risk players unless it's absolutely necessary. If Ben Davies was the only Rangers centre half available to play alongside Conor Goldson, I'm sure the manager would have asked him to come in and do a job. But when you have someone like Balogun, he's in the squad for a reason. He's not going to be a starter every week. He's not going to go and churn out 35 games over the course of a season. But a hugely experienced and likeable guy to be able to come in and do a very good job. It's not as if you're pitching someone in who is vastly inexperienced or who is clearly over the hill. He's clearly still got a lot to offer this team and offer this squad. I know on form, he deserves to keep his place after coming in and doing such a good job on Wednesday.
We're going to speak about a couple more of the kind of individual players before we get to the bench and the Hearts team as well. Todd Cantwell, as you say, we're having some debate with Stevie, who's here as well, who'll be joining us post-match about who should play in that right-sided spot. Obviously, neither Cantwell nor Lammers are natural wingers. I think they're not being asked to play as natural wingers on that side, but there's an argument that Rangers have looked better when, even if you lack a bit of end product at times, when Wright's playing on the right-hand side, he's going to carry up the pitch. He's quick, he's got redeeming qualities, and he was pretty good in midweek. But I tend to agree with you. Campbell's your best player. We've been here before when he's not started at Hampden, and it's been a pretty costly decision. My point of view on that, Chris, is get him in there. Lammers is someone that the manager's preferred to play quite a lot recently. It doesn't make sense to take him out just after he's scored that goal and had that clear confidence boost. So no real surprises for me. I guess we're still waiting to see how that dynamic works with those two players up front. But what you would say is now having Danilo, who we'll come on to talk about, you've got a much better option up front, a much more in-form option up front. And I think then you have pace in the last line as well, which should help them. But we are still waiting to see how that kind of dynamic between Cantwell and Lammers works in games. Is that fair to say?
I think if the manager had another right winger, I think Cantwell would have moved in when he plays as a 10, which was his most effective position, his best place in the side. And you've then got two kind of pacier, wider options to give you that balance. Well, we don't have that option in the squad. I think Cantwell playing notionally on that right, but from the right and also drifting into other areas. I think that's probably the best use of him, the best way to get him in the team. Sam Lammers, I've spoken about often.
You're still not sold,
I'm still not getting on board the Sam Lammers.
Goal,
he did play very well, and it would have been harsh if he scores that goal and he has the impact that he has on Wednesday night, and he then doesn't play. And I think of some of the performances he's put in over the course of the season and still kept his place in the team. It would have been a bit silly to allow him to have that on Wednesday night. Look like there's finally something there, and he's finally getting somewhere, and then not play him in this game. I think he's almost on a game-by-game basis. If he plays well, he keeps his place. If he doesn't, people will say he should be dropped and he shouldn't be in the team. That's just the way that he is at present, given his track record and his start of his Rangers career. But again, I don't think it's a huge surprise that he's starting on the back of Wednesday night. And I think Cantwell, as we've said, he has to come back in just for what he brings the team. I think people will maybe look at Wright or McCausland as another right option, but they are what they are in terms of the squad. And
another important point, which Clement mentioned in a recent press conference, especially against Hearts, who are playing with three centre backs, quite a big physical team, set pieces, and he spoke about that. I think it was on Sky Sports when he was asked about Lammers' inclusion, especially in a cup semi-final. That type of thing comes into it because you probably want as many big physical profiles as possible. Danilo, we spoke about him a lot since Wednesday, but it was nice to watch a really all-round number 9 performance.
It's been a long time.
Yeah, and it wasn't perfect. He should have scored a few more. But what impressed me, I think it was one of the first examples, because I think he's only started as Rangers number 9 3 times. Servette away, St Johnstone away, and then Dundee away. Whereas if you look at his other performances, Dessers has been the central striker and Danilo's kind of been a free roll off the front, which, although that still in theory allows him to drop deep to link up, I think it's a different role to him being the central striker and the one who occupies the defence. You were there at the game. What did you make of this performance, and how because I felt effectively that because Rangers had that kind of template up front, someone who was moving into lots of different positions, combining with his teammates, offering them a safe route forward, that was the platform for a much better attacking performance, which you hope will continue into today.
I think that movement aspect is clearly one of the main differences between Danilo and Dessers is that movement. He's very, very clever. He's always looking. I don't know how many times have we spoken about Dessers being caught offside because he's not quick enough physically to actually make the move, and perhaps not quite switched on enough to realise how the play's going to unfold and get himself in the right position. Danilo is clearly a smart striker. I think there was also a frustration that he didn't score more. He did take his goal very well, but
it's a good place to be in if your striker scores and you still want him to score more.
If you're being really picky, he should have had 2, maybe he had 3 on Wednesday night. But I think that maybe comes from a lack of sharpness as well, because people have to remember, out for a long time, had a really bad injury, only had, was it 9 minutes his first game, I think like 15 or 16 or so. After that, he is still building himself back up. I think if Dessers had been in any sort of form, you probably wouldn't have seen Danilo actually starting on Wednesday night, and he would maybe have got half an hour, maybe I got a half, and this would still have been like one of these key build-up games for him. The situation is Rangers needed him to come in because they needed that spark, they needed something different, had to give the fans something to kind of get them back on board. And I think the other good thing from Wednesday night is as impressive as Danilo was, and we know there's more to come. Big Dessers then does his bit, he comes off the bench and he gets his goal.
It's an option, yeah.
I think it would have been harsh if Danilo had fallen out of the team, because on form, he deserves to start. I think that's the right call to make. But hopefully Dessers doesn't actually see it as too big a negative, and he sees there is actually an opportunity here. By the time Adrian come on, the game's a different place, and if he can score 10 goals coming off the bench this season, what a huge impact!
That'd be nice.
What a huge impact it can be. Just because he's not starting every game as the number 9 doesn't mean to say that he can't have an impact. And hopefully doesn't. Hopefully he sees it that way as well, and doesn't get too down on himself. And you get the impression, having spoken to him, and the way the manager speaks about him, he doesn't seem to be that type of character. So it doesn't have to be an either or. I think Danilo is the right man to start. Definitely. He offers Rangers so much more at the start of games. But as a couple of comments have said, the bench is looking a bit stronger. Dessers is there.
Yes.
Davies is there. Sterling's back. Lawrence is back, which is good. Cifuentes is back, which is good. So there's definitely options there for the manager if things aren't going to plan, which hopefully they will be.
Yeah, we'll get to the bench to finish off. I'm going to read the Hearts team out first and kind of look at what they're doing. They go with Clark, Kent, Kingsley, Beningame, Grant. I think it's Nieuwenhof, so forgive me if I've pronounced that incorrectly. Nieuwenhof, Shankland, Rowles, Cochrane, Sibic and Vargas. So I think it'll be a similar shape to what Hearts did at Ibrox, with a back three of Kingsley, Kent and Rowles. Sibic at right wing back, which again speaks to that mismatch they're maybe trying to create with Ridvan in there, which is lessened by the introduction of Shankland. Vargas is the kind of, I guess, the player who plays on the last line. Shankland is the player who's dropping deep. He dropped quite a lot to the right-hand side at Ibrox as well. You've got a midfield three, and then Beningame is the one at the base of that. So quite a similar shape. And you'd imagine that Hearts, Chris, will approach this in something of a similar vein. Rangers struggled to create against them at Ibrox, but there's a couple of specifics to that. Number one, Hearts scored within 5 minutes, and it suits them perfectly because they're away from home and they can sit back. If they sit back to that degree today and it was the deepest defence on if you look at the defensive distance metric, which I'm sure you did, is the deepest defence that Rangers have faced all season. I don't think that's going to be the case from the start today. I think they will still try to frustrate Rangers. Rangers had a 90-minute performance in midweek. It would be nice if they did that again.
It would be very nice.
Hearts,
not enough for them.
And Hearts will pose some problems. They've got, and I guess they're going to have belief in this setup as well. That they were just beaten by it a couple of weeks ago. So Rangers are favourites for this competition. They need to win this competition. There's so much pressure on them to win this competition, but it's going to be a difficult task today. And last week showed that even if I think the game was quite influenced by that early goal.
It's an interesting one for Hearts. Do they see it as, well, we got within a couple of minutes of a really impressive result against Rangers? The plan worked. Everything went to plan, and we almost got there. Or do they see it as, well, actually we chucked that away? Interesting from a key mentality point of view. How does Stephen A. Smith reference that game? Because that game, maybe they're going through the preparations of the last couple of days. That game obviously must have come up, because he's obviously going with a similar approach today. Yeah. He must have referenced that Rangers game quite a lot. And does he almost say, look, it was a freak result, boys. Everything we did, it went to plan. We scored early, we frustrated them, we got the crowd on their back. And if it hadn't been for a remarkable ending that only happens once out of 100 times, then we would have got a result. Or did the players think, actually, we did everything right that day and we still couldn't beat them? How did we then actually turn that around and beat them at Hampden? So really interesting to see how Hearts approach it. I think from in terms of the setup and how they'll go about it, I think it'll be just really similar to the Ibrox game. But from a mentality point of view, do they believe that Rangers are there to be beaten? Do they believe they can actually do it? Because much like Rangers, with all respect to Aberdeen, who's obviously got the result against Hibs yesterday, you would have to fancy a chance here. If Rangers get through, huge favourites to go and win the competition, obviously. If Hearts get through, it's a shot at silverware, and they would back themselves to go and do it as well. So they could almost see this as the final before the final in many regards for them.
Yeah.
So I think if a really interesting one from Stephen A. Smith, who has not had a great start this season, under a bit of pressure as well. There's the murmurings of discontent within the Hearts support as well. So it's certainly not a free hit for them. And the Hearts fans that come here today will be expecting to see a lot from their side as well. So interesting one. Back in Rangers to win it, 2-0 to Rangers hopefully.
Okay,
and
there we go.
I think fingers crossed.
Yeah, and the thing is, Chris, Rangers have not won silverware nor this competition regularly enough to go into this with any sense of, I guess, favouritism. They need to go and prove it. They need to win today. They need to put in a good performance today. I think it's interesting how they use the wide areas, because that's against Hearts. They struggled with that. Do they then resort to crossed balls? Hopefully not, because I, like a lot of people, absolutely hate watching that. Danilo, you hope, gives them a little bit more of of dynamic movement up top, which helps things. The bench, as you say, I'll just read that before we close, which is McCrory, Ridvan, Dessers, Lawrence, Cifuentes, Sterling, Wright, Davies, McCausland. One of the first times in recent weeks where you've looked at that and thought that there's actually options there. So Clement does have some options to work with from the bench as well. You can stay up to date with the game if you're not watching it on our social channels. We'll be live after the game as well. Press conference coverage, match reaction, coverage tomorrow, you name it, it will be on the Rangers Review. Remember to subscribe if you've not done already by following the ticker on the link on the ticker below. Enjoy the game wherever you're watching it, and we'll speak to you later.